This experience, being the first to do it, to go through this never ending trial and error within the Big Apple, this concrete jungle, Gotham, the city that never sleeps, the city where if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, the city that allows for dreams to become reality as fast as they can become nightmares, the crowded city that's made up of its people, the different cultures that are located here, their food, their music, their vibes, their focus, their grit. This city, New York City, is my home, and it's our home. The city where my parents decided to settle to start this American dream, to provide us kids with a better future than what they were given at our age. Like many immigrant parents, this city, this country, this society has housed many promises, many futures, and many stories. Stories in particular of kids who have fended for themselves as much as they needed to fend for their own families. Being the first to navigate these experiences, especially the educational institutions here, makes you wonder. It makes you wonder if you are the best, the right person for the job. Being the first to navigate for everyone who else comes after. It makes you wonder if you are the best you can be not only for you, but everyone around you. It makes you wonder, do you want to succeed as much as you want to breathe? It makes you wonder, being the first generation here.
Introduce yourself. Could I get your name and your background?
My name is Justin Fermetta, and I'm Latino, and I'm 21 years old.
My name is Oliver Fermetta. I'm Dominican. I'm 23 years old.
My name is Vladimir Jimenez. I was born in the Dominican Republic, and I came to the U.S. when I was 7 years old.
My name is Emily Noah. I was born August 21st, 2003.
Mi nombre es Juberkis Liriano. Yo soy la mamá del que me está entrevistando, José Hinoa.
Randy Bowen. I am a school counselor and have been a school counselor for 13 years with the New York City Department of Education.
Well, my name is Jose Hinoa. I am a first generation Dominican American here in New York. I study film and I cook on my free time.
Did you end up attending college?
I did end up attending college for 1.5 years.
And was that for IT or electronics or anything of the sort?
It was liberal arts.
Liberal arts. Okay.
I went to school for computer science, so I've always wanted to do computer science because I'm very tech savvy. I chose to do photography because I'm creative. So I went to school for computer science. I dropped out to do photography.
Okay. Okay. And Vlad, what do you do for a living right now?
Well, I'm a full-time student, part-time tutor, after-school program.
Okay. Is that what you're studying for school, tutoring?
No, I'm studying psychology for school right now.
Psychology.
I'm in high school, so I don't really have a living. I just go to school and I play softball.
I'm actually graduating this semester, long overdue, but due to work and things, life happening, I had to switch.
The topic of college, right? I wanted to talk about the institution itself. And I could imagine when you started applying to school and whatnot, and when I applied to school and whatnot, the idea of what college is and what it's supposed to do, it hasn't necessarily changed too much. Obviously, you're supposed to go for a quote unquote higher form of education, which would allow you to get a better job and excel and whatnot, right? But I wanted to talk about the idea of is the idea of college overrated at this point? Is it not only is it overrated, is it necessary? Because for example, I just want to touch on, let's say TikTok, right? There's people who are legit TikTok famous at 14 years old. And they're making a killing off of it. Same thing on Instagram and social media, just for an example. And there's some people who could be aspiring chefs who have made it big on TikTok and are now able to give out their content using these social media platforms and probably have no aspirations of attending quote unquote college or university. Like, what do you think on that?
I don't think that the college as an institution is overrated. I think our perception of what college is supposed to be for us is the issue. Okay. So by default, I think that if a person understands their abilities, talents, gifts, skills, and you invest time into it, and you have the opportunity to be able to invest that time in it, you won't necessarily need college, right? But if your perception is, I don't know what my skills are, I don't know what my talents are, I don't know what my qualities are, I don't know. College could be a place to allow for that exploration.
I've always seen it as a kind of a stepping stone to whatever it is that you want to do. So if you want to become, for example, a lawyer, you need to go through college to become a lawyer. I've always been a fan of identifying what it is that you want first before you take action, right? You have to draw the map kind of backwards. So if I want to be a civil engineer, I have to go to school to be a civil engineer. To be a photographer or an artist, in my case, I didn't really have to. I found success more in networking with people, honing my craft, than actually spending time passing exams. You know, in my case, and it's been very successful for me.
Obviously, growing up, you're in school and they teach you about you have to get good grades and you have to succeed and get passed and then move from middle school, high school, college, right? Could you just tell me a little bit of what they've told you or people that you know about what is college supposed to be like?
Well, people say college is supposed to be hard and it's a higher level of education, so you have to change your habits, your learning habits, and your studying habits. And then others say that the experience you get from being more independent, helps craft like the person you're gonna be in the future.
Okay. And could you explain to me a little bit of when you were a kid, like when you were a kid and thought about college, what was your idea of it back then compared to now when you're getting ready to go?
Well, I thought college was like in the movies, it was all fun and like parties and stuff, but obviously it's not. It's about learning, and yeah, you go to a few parties, but mostly about learning.
Okay. And what do you think college is supposed to do for you?
Well, the idea is that you learn something you're interested in, and you find a job in the future that pertains to that interest, and you can hopefully make a better living if you didn't have one previously.
Okay.
Parents always say, oh, without a degree, you can't really do anything. Nowadays, things change, you know. If you prove that you can actually do something, you'll get the job regardless.
Okay. So so what you're saying essentially is that the degree might have not been worth it if you would have completed it.
It's just the degree that I was pursuing is high school 2.0. It wasn't going to guarantee me anything at all.
Yo tuve ese error de no terminar la escuela, y yo creo que los muchachos que terminan la escuela y que tienen la oportunidad de ir a la universidad pueden en ese proceso descubrir lo que les gusta en verdad, y también es un proceso de aprendizaje. Pueden aprender diferentes idiomas con las personas que se relacionan en la universidad. Pueden conocer diferentes personas de diferentes países también, y quién sabe, tal vez le puede interesar algo de otras personas que vienen de otros países diferentes del país donde ese niño nació.
I think it's been painted as like an essential thing you have to do. In order for you to do good in life, you need to go through college. You need to pass this level of your life, right? At least in the US, everyone's expected to go to college to be someone in life. It's painted in the movies like this, like amazing. You ever seen these movies like on campus they're throwing frisbees around and everything is green? It's so different from that. It couldn't be farther from the truth. I guess you'll find campuses that do have that unity or whatever, but at least here in the city you don't find that. You find everything is very spaced out. Like nobody wants to talk to each other. It's more like do your own thing and get out.
Almost like a commuter school, right? Like
Right.
everyone has like their lives going on.
Right. It's not as painted as it is in the movies visually, and also it takes a mental toll on you because you say, well, I'm gonna go to college thinking it's a whole experience, but it turns out it's just another high school.
I think the reason, there's different reasons to it. I think one of the main reasons is just that it makes it easier for everybody if you follow certain structures or certain paths when it comes to, life. You could, from an early age, we're taught, you got to start here and you got to go to school for 12 years. And after that, you decide if you want to continue or you want to do whatever else, right? And I think, when it comes to school itself, or it's trying to set yourself apart, it's just about being unique. Everybody is unique in their own way. So if some of the most brilliant minds didn't finish college, and people know that. And sometimes rules are meant to be broken.
As we're growing up as kids, we are taught a schematic. It's a very antiquated, very old schematic where it says we go from elementary school to middle school to high school to college. Upon completion of college, you get your degree with your 401k, your benefits, and you live happily ever after.
Okay, and are you a first generation college student?
Yeah, I am.
What does that mean, to you? How do you feel about that?
It's interesting. There's a lot of pressures, a lot of advantages and disadvantages.
You, especially, relative to me, I've seen my mom. I grew up with my mom, and my mom, and my brother. So it's just us three, no dad involved. So you kind of feel, I'm the older brother, so you kind of feel the pressure of I need to make the difference. They don't tell you directly, hey, you need to make a difference. I guess the common trend is I brought you into this country for you to do something different with your life. So now you have, it's hard. How do I do that? First of all, these are all the steps, right? You first of all have to go to school, learn the school system, right? How elementary school works, how middle school works, how high school works, how college works, and then how life works.
Some of the pressures, I would say, it can at times be stressful. Stress is always one of those things that you might think is not going to happen to you. But there's been times where I've been stressed myself and I just never told nobody, or, just figure out how to continue moving forward. So I would say at times it can definitely get to you mentally and sometimes physically too.
Yes, you would say there's the pressure of, being successful. Like I said, the idea would be to, try to gain some form of money and help, if your parents, buy that house that they want, leave that old apartment that they have.
It definitely is, and it comes with its perks, because people where I'm from, I'm Dominican, so people from that time, if you don't have a degree, you're practically just going to be working for pocket change, and you're going to be doing that on a monthly basis, So if you don't have a degree or do anything that's like a lawyer or a doctor or a pilot, you're going to be living a very mediocre life. I look back and, see where my parents came from and see what they had to go through as a child and see what standards they had to grow up to. And seeing where I am today, my parents had to go through a lot of work just to get where I am today. So, that's one of the biggest fires that pushes me to continue what I'm doing today.
You don't have anybody to guide you. You don't have a generation that did it prior that might be able to give you some advice on certain things. You're kind of figuring it out. You're on your own situation. Right. Which I feel a lot of people who are first generation probably feel the same way. You're doing it all by yourself, and you're learning how to walk.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about the advantages and disadvantages of being a first generation college student here in the U.S.
I think one of the biggest advantages is the fact that I think you allows you to be versatile. You're pushed to become a sponge. You're pushed to figure things out on your own. It kind of breeds a certain, you could say, animal. You're hungry, because you're hungry because you need to, not because you want to be. If that makes sense. You have to ask these questions. You have to go through these experiences because nobody else is gonna do them for you. Right. and I guess it gives some type of energy and some type of motivation.
Right.
And for the disadvantages, I could imagine it would be not having that guidance, not being able to look at someone and be like, hey, what do you think about X, Y, and Z? Or when you did this X, Y, and Z, you don't really have that experience. You don't have anybody in your circle to get that experience from.
Right, so it's kind of a good and a bad thing, because you're hungry through one side, it's an advantage, but you're kind of like a blind rat, like you have no guidance.
Yeah, it's almost like a double-edged sword.
Right. If I'm the first graduate, and I really want to be the first graduate, I'm going to have way more drive than someone who, family B, their entire family has been through college, and this one kid does not. My parents are rich and they're just paying for me to go to college. I'm just going to college, right? But now when you have, family A, where the student is a immigrant and the first generation immigrant going through college, he's going to have a lot more drive. There's need also back there. There's poverty back there. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of insecurities within the family. There's culture that they need to prove. It's a big advantage. It could also be the way around. It could be vice versa. That's kind of an advantage, but I can't think of a disadvantage.
You can't think of any disadvantages?
No. No. Okay. If not, if it doesn't empower you, it won't do anything else.
Parents not necessarily knowing how does one acquire wealth in detail pushes kids to those professions. And as I've seen, a lot of them are not necessarily successful because of a number of reasons. And a lot of them is just, it's not their passion. It's not what they enjoy. It's not what they love. And they weren't able to explore those passions because there was this pressure and demand, there is a pressure and demand for them to produce or to be this thing in their family. So what I've seen now over the years is that now I'm having more and more conversations with kids who are like, I want to be a painter, right? And they have to kind of battle that stigma of going home and telling their parents, like, this is what I want.
Yeah. Because you're almost institutionalized. Growing up, the whole time your parents are telling you got to get a good job. You have to get a good job. Now time has come for you to apply to universities and get this good job. And you're like, I don't want to do that.
Exactly. And a lot of it is, all right, so I'm getting the good job, but like, for what? And for a lot of the parents, like mine to some degree, they're like, well, someone needs to take care of me when I get older. Because that's what they've done for our grandparents and grandparents. Like, that's just kind of the lineage. Yeah. And I think not knowing the systems and how America works makes it even harder, because if you knew the system and you knew structures and functions, if you knew about, or were educated about, let's say, 401ks and retirements, let's say you were educated about long-term care, all of these things where you wouldn't necessarily have to rely on your kids to live.
Solamente todos los días ruego a Dios que sigan adelante, que puedan terminar su carrera, para que tengan una vida mucho mejor de la que yo he tenido y de la que yo le he podido dar a ellos, en lo que cabe que yo he podido hacer por ellos. Yo quiero lo mejor para mis hijos, que vivan en un mejor lugar, que sean más estudiados, que expandan más su conocimiento y que puedan, no sé, explorar el mundo como me hubiera gustado a mí, si hubiera tenido una buena carrera, que hubiera podido ganar mejor dinero para poder viajar, porque me encanta viajar también, eso me hubiera gustado. Pero como no puedo en estos momentos, porque mi situación económica no me da, por eso yo creo que si yo hubiera tenido una profesión, hubiera podido ganar un poco más de dinero y hubiera podido realizar los sueños que yo tengo, que sería conocer diferentes países y diferentes culturas, que eso me interesa.
Regardless of their background, many immigrants, if not all, come to a different country to start a new life. Many of them gave up on their personal hopes and dreams and ways of living so that the life that they will be providing to their own children is what they have always wanted for themselves. However, with completing this valiant act of heroism, they also in the process make sure that their children understand their acts, their reasonings as to why they are providing the best that they can for their children with sometimes little to no resources. The act of sacrificing their hopes and dreams so that someday their children can have the opportunity to make their own hopes and dreams come true, when you think about it, is biblical. Most can be considered martyrs in their own respect, and like myself, many children of immigrants grow up very aware of the enormous sacrifices that our parents have made and spend the rest of their lives proving to their parents that the suffering was not in vain. Now, while engaging in conversations with many friends, and one thing has been made very clear to me, it seems that in most cases, in most families, the role of a child and parent is very defined. Parents give birth to the children and are responsible for them. However, when it comes to an immigrant household, the relationship between child and parent is much more complicated. Because we're born in the USA and inherently and more accustomed to the language, culture, and societal structure, we often feel responsible for translating the culture to our families. Even at a young age, many of us immigrant peers and me have had to learn to translate bills, documents, and sometimes even laws to our families. This inherently created a shift in the child and parent dynamic that forced us to take responsibility for our families earlier on, and also exposes us to family struggles that many other children were shielded from.
Yo nací en la República Dominicana.
Okay. ¿Y estudiaste allá?
Sí. Estudié allá y aquí también.
¿Y terminaste con una carrera en la universidad o
Aquí llegué hasta el último grado, pero no terminé.
del colegio?
Sí, de secundaria.
High school.
Ajá.
¿Se puede saber por qué usted no siguió con eso, con las carreras o...?
Bueno, a mí no me gustaba mucho la escuela, tuve un tiempo que iba y salía de la escuela y después al final decidí retirarme y no seguir para terminar mis estudios.
¿Se puede saber, o sea, hace cuántos años de esa decisión?
Eso hace más de 27 años.
Ok.
Sí. Mucho antes que naciera mi primer hijo.
Ok. Y hacen básicamente casi 30 años que usted hizo la decisión.
Sí.
Él
no continuó la escuela.
Exacto.
Sí. Ajá.
Pensándolo ahora.
Fue un error, sí.
¿Usted cree?
Sí, fue un error. No haber continuado con mis estudios y tampoco haber ido a la universidad. Por eso siempre le estoy imponiendo a mis hijos, no imponiendo, aconsejándole a mis hijos de que terminen su escuela y de que se hagan de una profesión, porque es muy importante tener un título para obtener un buen trabajo para su futuro, para que puedan vivir mucho mejor de la vida que yo he tenido.
I wanted to ask one last question. Do you have any advice for anyone who might be in your spot where you were in previously going into school and having the pressures of being a first-generation student?
I would say don't be afraid to change the norms, right? Don't be afraid to change the norms. Don't be afraid to be different. And definitely find what motivates you.
One thing is definitely try things out, get to know the world, see what it has to offer, and just go out there. Even if you don't know if that's what you want to do, just do it, because who knows if you actually might like it and you land a solid job and it makes your whole career, better than what it would be working at a bodega, for example. And definitely don't take your foot off the gas. That's the major thing that I have to say, is just as soon as you get out of high school, start doing something. Have a plan before you graduate, because if not, you're gonna stall and you're gonna waste time, and it's not gonna be a good time for you.
If you have that luxury of, and the majority of the people that I went to school with had that luxury. They spent their time doing things, that are not necessary, playing video games all day, whatever. Just figure out who you are first and see what is it you want to do. And does it make you happy? That's big. Just because it makes you money doesn't make you happy. There's a lot of empty billionaires out there. Follow your dreams, do what is it you want if you have that luxury. Kind of my 2 cents.
I want to say, listen to yourself, listen to your gut. Everybody around you, I want to say, has like their best interests. They have your best interests at heart. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be pessimistic, but at the end of the day, like it's you and yourself. And it's sad to say it, but even if you want to do things for your family, it's hard to do something for your family when you aren't doing things for yourself, right? Or trying to accomplish a goal for somebody else when the goals that you have set up for yourself aren't being done. It's counterproductive, and I think a lot of us fall into that trap. It's almost a trap because we're trying to make sure that we honor the legacy that our parents created, in which that they left their homes for us to have a better life. And it would be a shame for us to not have met the potential, and it's like almost they wasted their time in us. And we get lost with that because at the end of the day, you're almost living somebody else's life. Yeah, so if you get anything from that, is just make sure you're following your goals, you're following your passions, and one way or another, you're gonna make these people proud. It's not like you don't have to become a doctor. You don't have to become a lawyer. You don't have to become an engineer. You don't have to follow STEM programs and make a lot of money. Like, you're gonna, if these people are in your circle, they're in your circle, and I could imagine, as long as you're happy, they should be happy as well.
We are the first. First to rise with the sun, looking through the curtains, encouraging, cheering the buildings to get up, to begin to get things done. We are the first. First to smell the Bustelo brewing and the tostada warming, traditions that inspire the energy to start motivating. We are the first. First to begin with pens, books, and thoughts, hidden away in a corner, creating an oasis with our headphones, creating places to dream about what the future could have in store. We are the first. To succeed, to fill out forms that far exceeded our understanding, to take tests that meant more than just grades, to study until we can't bear to focus, to stress until we can't breathe. We are the first. To fail, to receive red ink painted on paper, to see a bank account drain and see worry increase because money does not, nor has it ever, come cheap. We are the first. To have a lasting smile, to have dreams begin to come true, to have a permanent song within the heart, playing tunes of happiness and pumping beats of exhilaration when everything finally falls into place. We are the first. To have every lesson learned turn into a meaning, a truth, a value, to have a story for those to follow who come after us. We are the first to experience it all, to fail miserably and recklessly, to gain every success, to ride every high, to fall every low, and experience all the moments in between. We are the first. We are stressed. We are pulled in all sorts of directions, trying to navigate all by ourselves. However, we are happy. We are conquering. We are the difference. We are the first generation.